Good afternoon. Brad Bruce, it's mFORCE Capital. This is our second episode of Local Markets. And today we have our second esteemed guest with Alem Boukadoum of ADG. And I'm excited about it today, Al.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked Alem to come today is that over the years, we have lots of business owners that we do financial planning for. And we do wealth strategy for different strategies coming out of their retirement and when they sell their business. A lot of those companies, owners think these companies are worth $50, $25, $100 million. But when it comes time for exit planning, there is no buyers for them. They're for how they're structured, how they're situated, and so on. And so we lean on our alliance with Alem and his group, and we wanted to kind of talk to Alem about his background and history. So tell us, how'd you get started?
So I started the firm 7 years ago. It'll be 8 years here in a few months. My background early on, I was an entrepreneur. I had straight out of college, I started a software company with a couple of partners. We built that business and sold it. So I've sat in the seat of our client, selling a business, building a business, selling a business, making payroll, all the things that they have to do. Sold that business, joined another firm here in town, learned the world of mergers and acquisitions and advisory work. I spent about 8 years there. And then it was time to strike out on my own and do something just a little bit different. And that's how we formed ADG.
Nice. So ADG, where'd that come from?
I get asked that question often enough. People ask if it's initials or whatever it is. The story actually is we were sitting around the kitchen table thinking about this new firm and what we were gonna name it, and came up with. And we were talking about what do we want to do and what's important to us. And what's important to us is always doing good. And we want to do well. It's not bad grammar, but the ADG stands for always do good because we always want to do good in whatever it is that we're doing. And so that served us well, just as a reminder of who we are and what we do.
Nice, nice. Clients thinking about selling this business, what are the key and sometimes the most critical factors of them getting ready for that moment?
Sure. So I think preparing in advance is important. We have lots of operators and business owners that run their business every day. And then one day they decide it's time to sell the business, but they haven't been thinking about it. And they haven't necessarily been tracking data or metrics that are important for a buyer to really be able to understand their business. So, as an owner is thinking or preparing for selling, I think sitting down with somebody like us to understand the business, understand what's important to different types of buyers, and then think forward as to what are the value, how you create value, or how a buyer would think about value creation in your business. It's really important. So, and sometimes it's simple things like, am I tracking safety metrics or am I tracking financial metrics, and being able to sort on those over time, where if you haven't been tracking things along the way, it can be really, really hard to come back and figure those out. But if you do, and it doesn't necessarily even take any more time or effort or cost, then you can have that data, which is very valuable to your buyer, and it makes my job a lot easier.
Outstanding. So more times than not, I get the phone call, Brad, I've got a buyer and they're ready to buy. And, we sit down with them if we can. But what advice do you give to that business owner who gets that unsolicited call from that private equity fund or their competitor down the street that gives them a number?
Sure. When we think about the market and we think about maximizing value, a little bit of competitive tension goes a long way. So I think one important thing is talking to, one, understanding the value of your business. And that can be, again, talking to ADG or somebody that's like us. But the other is letting the market speak. And we talk to people all the time. We get probably the same question that you do. How much is my business worth? Well, we can give you how much your business is worth within a range, and we can tell you generally what's going on in the market. But really what your business is worth is where a willing buyer and willing seller will transact. And so creating a little bit of competition can be extremely valuable. A quick story, we had We had a client years ago that we were working with and had a relationship over time. And they came to us and said, hey, we got an unsolicited offer. And great, that's exciting. Let's look at it and think about it. And we did. And we said, well, let us talk to one other person in the market. And it was a private equity firm that we knew well. And just that second conversation and just talking to somebody else ended up creating about a 30% increase over the original offer that was received.
Wow.
So having an advisor, having somebody who understands the market, and then creating a little bit of competitive tension, those things can really help you to maximize the value, but as importantly, understand that you're getting a full and fair value.
Sure. I know when we do our wealth planning, a lot of times there will be that offer on the table, and it's not quite that number they need to get to do everything they want to do in their life, right? There's strategies that you can work with them to get that value gap up over time, right? And that's what you're talking about.
Sure. And I think, the value of the business is the value of the business.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about often is a challenge with a seller where they're stuck on the value they need to achieve a certain outcome.
That's right.
And if the value of the business is there or above, that's great. If it's not, then there's no deal. So then the question becomes, what are the things that I can do to increase the value of my business? And again, sometimes those things are just very obvious. Go out and sell more and generate a little more profit. Sometimes those things are structural. You've got a business, hey, you've got too much concentration with one customer, and so you're getting discounted for that. Or you're too concentrated in a geography and you're getting discounted for that, or whatever it might be. So sometimes there are things that you can do just, again, structurally to increase the value of your business. You're the only one that's selling in your business. And if you get hit by a bus, the whole business goes away. Yeah. Well, let's change that and increase our sales force. There are different things. So that depends on the business. But again, understanding how a buyer thinks and what a buyer values can often help you then increase the value of your business.
Sure. And the tax structure.
Certainly. Certainly. What you take home is very important.
Absolutely.
Right.
So your ideal client?
For us, we operate in what we consider to be the lower middle market. For us, that is typically family-owned, often multi-generational, or founder-led businesses. So mom or dad founded the business, son or daughter maybe grew the business, and the next generation, either there's not somebody to hand the flag to and have them run the business, or for whatever reason that doesn't make sense. Sometimes that's we hit a place where I've hit my limit. I've done everything I can with this business, and I can't grow it anymore, and I need a partner to help me grow it. Sometimes it's my business is growing so fast I can't afford to fund it, and I need a financial partner. There are a lot of different reasons why a client comes to us. But again, just kind of based on the space that we're playing, typically those are either family-owned businesses, single or multi-generational, or founder-led businesses.
Well, as you can see, Alem is an important partner to our mFORCE Capital clients. This is part of our team, and that team can be led with an attorney, a CPA, someone in Alem's seat. Of course, we have lending side and so on, but we're proud to have you part of our team.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Alem, there's lots of potential buyers in the marketplace. What are the types and what are the different strategies that go along with it?
Sure. So we generally think about buyers in two big categories, and then there are different types within those two categories. So we generally think about financial buyers, but we think about strategic buyers. Financial buyers may be a private equity group, it may be a family office, it may be an independent sponsor, but somebody who is investing money and backing someone to run a business. On the strategic side, you think about somebody who may be a competitor that you're selling to. It may be somebody that's in an adjacent market that wants to enter into your market. I think the types of buyer for our sellers, the types of buyers matter for two reasons. Often different types of buyers will pay different amounts depending on the type of buyer that it is. But also what you want to do on a go-forward basis can help you determine what type of buyer you're going to think about. So if you think about a founder-led business where that founder, maybe they want to retire or they kind of want to ride off into the sunset. Well, finding that, and they're leading the business today. Well, finding a private equity buyer may be a little bit more challenging than finding a strategic buyer who may not need you on a go-forward basis. So there are different elements like that that help you think through, or that are important to think through as you think about who you want to talk to as you're thinking about marketing your business.
What about that owner that wants to de-risk a bit, take some chips off the table, but not lose control?
Sure. Often the right buyer, typically, well, in that case, the right buyer is typically going to be a private equity partner. It's going to be a financial buyer. I want to take some chips off the table. I built my business every day. That is my highest value asset and probably the vast majority of my balance sheet. And so I want to take some chips off the table and I want to diversify my risk. But again, and typically that private equity buyer, that is going to provide an opportunity for some, what we call rollover or reinvestment. It's leaving some chips on the table. Then they'll invest in the business and you will go grow that business together. We see very, very often that a seller will end up taking more that second time than they even did the first time, because they've gone and really grown the business in a way that they might not have otherwise done on their own. And that might be because they weren't capable of doing it on their own. They might not have had the risk appetite to do it on their own.
Sure.
They might not have had the financial wherewithal to do it on their own. So finding a partner can unlock value that you wouldn't otherwise be able to unlock on your own.
Perfect. I guess the last question with regards to this piece of it. Think about when that buyer gets that number, but he's required to roll over part of that number into the new stock, the new company's equity. What do they need to be watching out for?
Well, you always want to be thoughtful about who your partner is. Before we started here, we talked a little bit about culture fit.
Yeah.
Right? Do we fit together? Have we spent time together? Are we thinking about strategy the same way? Are we thinking about the direction of the business the same way? Because once your partner is your partners, I think one of the things that people forget also is typically when a private equity buyer comes and invests in a business, they feel like, man, now I'm owned by that private equity group. What they forget though is those private equity buyers, they can't run your business. They don't want to run your business. So you really are partnered because they need you to operate the business. Sure. And bringing someone else in adds an additional element of risk, often significant risk, because you don't know if that's going to work out or not. So I would tell you, very important to make sure, again, cultural fit, and that you're thinking about the growth of the business in a similar way.
Good. Thank you.